And we are live.
The Charlotte Hornets get a rare post-LaMelo Ball injury victory, and they ended the New York Knicks winning streak in Madison Square Garden. We talk all about it tonight on Locked On Hornets.
We're Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your podcasts, and that includes YouTube, where we are going live for the first time. Doug, I mean, how long has it been since we have gone live for the people? It has been months and months and months, to be honest. And
you can't go live with the phlegm that we've been dealing with for the past 2 weeks. No one wants to see the phlegm. They barely want to see the phlegm recorded. They don't want to see the phlegm fly live.
And they don't want to see any of that. We had to edit it, heavy editing. I don't even know what each show made it out. I think we did 3 shows before we sent the actual one out to the people. But this one's going to be live because Doug's feeling a lot better. The Hornets got a victory. It's rare that we get to talk about that post-LaMelo Ball's fractured right ankle. It's not like it's been forever since we've talked about one, because they did have the 5-game winning streak. But without LaMelo, the offense has been atrocious. It's not like it was phenomenal tonight, but it was good enough to get this win against New York. Follow me on Twitter at WalkerMail. Also catch me on WFNZ every weekday from 12 to 3, and catch Doug's Substack, Every Hornets Boxscore, on everyhornetsboxscore.com. Where do we start, Doug? So usually LaMelo is the A block every single time. I will allow you to take us wherever you want to, Mr. Producer, Mr. Hey, let's go live, sir. Where do you want to start?
Well, I think we have to start with 2 games on the road in New York, one against Brooklyn. They one against New York Knicks, and similar things going on in both of these games, Walker. Both times they closed the third quarter on a big run after in Brooklyn, it was in the first quarter against the Knicks. It was a second quarter in which they allowed 45 points to the Knicks. But they slip and fall on their face for a second consecutive night in the first half. But that third quarter run, they got off to a little rocky start in the fourth quarter, but then, boy, did they get big shots from Terry Rozier, from Gordon Hayward, and from Kelly Oubre, who just brought a ton of energy, a ton of intensity to this game. And then, but I think you have to look at the defensive end, really, with P.J. Washingon and J.T. Thor, and really a team defensive effort to slow down Julius Randle and a hot New York Knicks team that was on a 9-game winning streak and looked like they were ready to easily send it to 10 games before the Hornets decided, hey, we're going to come out in the half and, play like we actually have some talent on this team. Because the fact is, this Hornets team does have talent. They're not going to win every night. They're not going to win most nights. But they do have enough talent that when they all come together, they're capable of really beating nearly everyone.
Yeah, I thought P.J. Washington, just going to the first point you made, he made it hard on Julius. And there were even a couple times I thought Randle was going to get by him. I thought he opened up his hips a little too much, but then he would make it tough at the very end. He would contest. He was physical with a team like New York that's also very physical. And if you look at Julius Randle's stats against the Charlotte Hornets, he's not an efficient player against them. I mean, he did have 33 points in the last game they played on December 9th of this past year, but he shot 42.9%. So these are the last games for Julius against Charlotte. 16 points that you just saw tonight, 29.4%, 42.9 I just mentioned, 36.8, 43.8%, 37.5, 26.7% against the Charlotte Hornets all the way back on November 12th, 2021. So just the last couple of seasons, the Hornets have made it hard, whether it be P.J. Washington, whatever defender you have contesting against Julius, that is the guy that allows that offense to thrive for that New York team, right? Unless Jalen Brunson plays, which he didn't tonight, which, should be mentioned.
That's the point that I was going to make, is that I think it's a little easier to scheme against Randle. It's not easy at all, but it's a little bit easier when you don't have Brunson out there, and Brunson has a history of putting it on the Hornets. I think it made it easier. Well, there were a couple of things that went on with Randle in this game. I thought it was an interesting chess match that the old buddies on the sideline, Tibbs and Clifford, were playing. especially on the defensive end of the floor, because you saw Randall hit a couple of tough buckets. They didn't go to the double immediately, but once he started to get hot in that first quarter, Steve Clifford started throwing double after double, and then they decided to go ISO with Julius Randle as the counter, and then Randle would pass out of it, rotate. The Hornets did a good job. You saw Kelly Oubre get a steal off of one of those rotations. Hornets did a good job of responding to that, and you cooled him off early, and that was the key. You throw enough doubles at him, he got a little off his game, and then as the game wore on, they went away from him completely. And then in the fourth quarter, when they had to go back to him as the Hornets were making that run, then you were leaving it up to PJ to go one-on-one with him, but he was out of rhythm. And you saw PJ really attack him physically. And look, Randall does the same thing over and over, right? He's going to drive right and then try to spin back left. And when he was spinning back left, that's when they would either bring a sneak double over or PJ would get a hand in there, or Thor made an awesome defensive play to get a stop when he, again, gets physical with him early, but then backs off, pulls the chair out because Randall loves to get in that lane and draw fouls. Thor wouldn't let him do it. There was a lot of smart play happening. Gordon Hayward said after the game, we were playing tough in the first half, but we weren't playing smart. We played with a lot of energy, but we weren't playing smart. In the second half, they started playing smarter, and they got the win.
Yeah, if you look at the second half, I mean, the Charlotte Hornets vastly outplayed the Knicks. What is it? Is it a 62-39?
72. Oh, you're cheating them 10 points. 72-39 in the second half.
Ooh,
Pretty
yeah,
amazing.
so second half, Hornets vastly outplayed the New York Knicks, and it really was a second quarter. They allowed 45 points to New York, but outside that, pretty good defensively, right? 21 points they allowed in the first, 23 in the third, only 16 in the fourth. And you saw RJ Barrett miss a bunny at the very end of this game. Julius Randle could not connect on any of the drives. And also weird back and forth as far as the officiating goes. But I will say they at least, so they didn't call a foul on, what was it? I think it was a Terry Rozier layup where I thought he was going to score at the very end, but then they didn't call it on Josh Hart either, right? So each guy, Josh Hart, Terry Rozier, and a couple of transition opportunities back to back, thought they got fouled, but in reality, it went the other way. So even with the officials, a lot of Hornets fans not pleased with the way that they called it against Charlotte. At least the Hornets were the beneficiary in some aspects of this at the very end of this game.
Well, everybody was upset. I feel like both teams were. I thought the refs in general ate the whistle tonight. They weren't calling a lot of fouls. But then, you know, Clifford finally I guess he's listening to the show. He finally saves his challenge for the fourth quarter instead of burning it in the third quarter. And it was a huge challenge that was successful 4 minutes ago. The Gordon block that looked clean to me on first glance. It was called a foul, the Hornets challenge, and that was successful. That was a huge turn of events there because that would have been, I think, the turnover or the foul, the two shots, I think would have put the Knicks up 5 at that point had they gotten both of them. So instead, they tied it up on the next possession. So, yeah, I mean, I thought the ref situation was what it was. Clifford got teed up in the third quarter, and I love Clifford's go-to move when he gets the technical foul. Do you know his go-to move? He stares down the ref. What is it? The Iowa coach? Who's the guy that's getting all the
Fran McCaffrey? Yeah.
So it's McCaffrey-esque. It's not. Nobody is McCaffrey, but it's McCaffrey-esque.
Yeah.
He stares down. He's done it a couple times this season. He stares the official down, and then he says, "That is so weak."
Yeah, that was one of the best lip readings that we got all year long.
You didn't even need to lip read. He was screaming it so loudly in Madison Square Garden, where it was a packed house at MSG, and you could still hear Clifford saying, "That is so weak."
Do you want to go to any comments? It's been a while since we've gone live, so I want to dig deep into the individual performances. Give some love to Gordon Hayward. Kelly Oubre came up big. Terry Rozier hit some shots, and I even want to talk about Mark Williams. Not the greatest game from him, especially the stat line. But let's go to some comments real quickly before we move on. What do you have for us, Doug?
Bobby says, "Topo." Yeah, we didn't get a good Topo here.
Topo
My baby's sleeping,
right
so
now.
I'm trying not to wake the baby. Probably did it right there. But Blake says the Double Walker Doug Knight win stream. Yeah, let's go. Bobby says again, "What's up, fellas? Glad to be here for a rare live post. Hornets win, locked on." Yes. Blake says no Melo, no Martin, no problem. He also says this team plus Wemby equals finals. John wants us to talk about Hayward. We're going to get to Hayward. Don't you worry. I got a crazy stat for you before we go to break, though.
Okay,
The Hornets did not have any points off of turnovers until like the middle of the fourth quarter. I had it pulled up exactly when they got it because I looked in the fourth quarter and they still hadn't had any points off of turnovers. They ended up with 5 for the game, but all 5 of those came in like the last 5 minutes or so. It was nuts. It was that the first points off of turnover came on that weird like Randall. It was a pass to Randall from Quickly, and he bobbled it and tried to like flick it back to Quickly, and Gordon took it and turned it into an and one play. So that was the first opportunity that they had to get points off of turnovers, and they still won this game. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, no, that is nuts. And especially if you look at some of the other ones here, we can dig deeper in the second segment. Coming up next, Locked On Hornets.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
I want to talk about the individual performances and then also take a look at some of the trends that happened just with the overall team stats. But first, I have to talk about Built Bar because this episode is brought to you by Built Bar. If you're looking for a delicious treat but don't want all of the fat and the calories, then yes, you gotta try Built Bar. Healthy is actually tasty with Built Bar. Seriously, they're so delicious, you won't think they're even good for you. Perfect for the New Year's resolution that may have taken a couple of months to get in full effect. That happens with me every once in a while. What makes Built Bar so good? Well, for starters, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. And they come in unbelievable flavors. So many variations. The coconut variations are great. But you also might like churro, peanut butter brownie. If you like the intersection of chocolate and fruit, they have pretty much every fruit you can think of. Well, at least the basics: banana, apple, orange. You get the idea. And I
can think of a lot of fruits. I think you're underestimating my ability to think of fruits.
That's why I said the basics, because I knew you were going to come at me with some where you're going to say, what about dragon fruit? I can't tell you they have. I know. They don't have dragon fruit. I can't vouch for that, but they do have orange, apple, all the ones a 5-year-old might understand. They have those Built Bars. And now you don't need to wait around to get a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering your Built Bars at Built.com.
Yeah,
but now you can get them at your local Walmart or your Sam's Club. That's right. Head to your nearest Walmart. Grab a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, whatever you want to get. Or if you want more, go to Sam's Club, run in, and grab a 13-bar box. Again, you can still shop for them the old-fashioned way by going to Built.com, B-U-I-L-T, Built.com. More Locked On Hornets coming up next.
We got mangosteens.
Is Locked On Hornets.
Are we sure that like everyone interprets a handful as 5?
I think so. Honestly,
I would say a handful is normally 5, but
I would agree.
4 is acceptable.
I'm going to hold 5 things in my hand. Look, 1, this is a pen, a book. I got a phone. You guys are actually right. It's getting pretty full.
Yeah, I know.
Here's a cable. 5.
Okay, that's 5. That's 5.
And here's a coffee cup.
What else?
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Doug, I'm pretty sure you made up mangosteens. I think it's just mangoes. I don't think steens is an actual thing. You're telling me that's an actual fruit?
Yes, it is. I'll get you some more info on it in just a second. Don't you worry.
Give me all of the info on mangosteens. I'll give you some of the info tonight on Gordon Hayward and his performance. Usually it's LaMelo Ball getting us the triple-double, but it's kind of hard to do that when you're out for the rest of the season with a fractured right ankle. Gordon went 23 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists, went 3 of 6 from three-point range, 9 of 17 from the field. Huge shot where, Gordon got to his spot and hit a pull-up jumper from about 13 feet out or so. What a huge player for them. I mean, especially when he's the guy you trust most with the basketball in his hands, certainly in the starting lineup, because the other guys are Terry Rozier, and you might trust the basketball in his hands with Terry.
If somebody's giving it to him.
Yeah. Well, and even if Terry's creating for himself, but if he's playmaking for others, then that certainly takes a back seat. We know that Kelly Oubre is someone that was hot tonight. We'll get to him in just a moment. But Gordon is the guy you want to run your offense through in the starting lineup. And he was awesome tonight, Doug. Really some impressive numbers here lately. Post All-Star break, what we've seen going into All-Star break. Man, I mean, you think about this from the long-term standpoint where the trade deadline's already gone, so whatever. But you could go into this offseason if he finishes really strong, right? and GMs start to pay attention to him shooting at a really healthy rate, starting to look somewhat like a Gordon of old, or at least whatever this new good version is of Gordon Hayward. This is all about resurrecting some trade value, or if you do land a top prospect like Scoot Henderson, dare I say Victor Wembanyama, and then you just want to have an expiring contract on your roster while also helping ease in the new era, this could go well for them. But all of it, of course, is him staying healthy, which you can never bank on. At least we can just enjoy the good basketball he's playing right now.
Yeah, well, I think your only choice as a Hornets fan is to hope that he plays better, right? I mean, you don't want this to be a Nick Batum hopeless situation where he becomes unplayable at some point. They can't go through that again. So I think really you have to be begging for him to play like this. And this is the Gordon Hayward that I think all Hornets fans were thinking that the Hornets were going to get when they first acquired him. There were 2 points in this game where he really took over. In the second quarter, he didn't have any points in the first quarter, but in the second quarter, he had 11 points, and I thought he really steadied the ship overall because the offense was really struggling in that first half, and Gordon finally got the wheels moving a little bit, had some nice plays to set things up and really keep this game from getting too out of hand. That's what happened in Brooklyn. That first half in Brooklyn, the game got too out of hand, and when they made that third quarter run, it was like a 15-2 third quarter run against Brooklyn that brought the lead down to 24, right? This game could have been that exact same situation, but instead, because Gordon Hayward was able to turn up the scoring when they needed him to, they were within striking distance, which was 16 points, but it was striking distance. And then in the fourth quarter, again, I already mentioned the block that they had to challenge, but he gets the and one. That he drops it over Mitchell Robinson. He gets the contact from Quickly and then drops it somehow rainbow shot over Robinson. That was with 3 minutes to go. That's when they got their first points off of turnovers, by the way. I mentioned that in the first segment. But yeah, I mean, look, he's got a signature move, his lane drive, spin into the fader. He had that going. He was just amazing. I don't know really what more to say than that.
Well, yeah, and I mean, so he tied his season high for assists this year. It was the third highest total he's posted, tied with 9 rebounds in this game. And so with that and the 23 points, he comes very close to recording a triple-double. Now, look, I didn't want to I didn't want to clown Terry Rozier when we were talking about the ball handling because he did play well with a 10 of 22 performance. Not great from three-point range, but hit quite a few 2-point shots and did have 7 assists.
Tough ones that he hit, and they were timely and tough.
Well, and that's what Terry's been doing for them, because if offense is going to be hard to come by, I go back to that game they played against Phoenix where the offense that they had, it was Terry just leaning into the bodies of the bigger defenders and hitting some tough shots within 10 feet if he didn't have an open 3-point shot or if he wasn't scoring in transition. So you're seeing Terry be very physical and hit some of those touch shots within 10 feet. And you've seen that quite a bit since LaMelo's been out. And so, big shout to Terry. But I know you wanted to talk about Kelly Oubre, who finished this game as the leading point getter for Charlotte. 10 of 17 from the field, 3 of 6 from 3. All 4 of his free throw attempts he hit. Had 5 rebounds to boot. Kelly Oubre looked awesome. And you know what I noticed from Kelly? When Gordon Hayward hit that jump shot, he was pointing to him. He was excited. Like, he was ready to go. He was amped up. He was doing the whole first down signal when the ball was back in the possession of Charlotte. He was pounding his chest. Kelly wanted this one, and that's fun to see for a team that is not going to be winning many games the rest of the way. And it's all but said and done that they're going to be a bottom 4 team when the season is over with.
Couple of things on Kelly. He's got that dog in him, as the kids say. I mean, he was bringing
We've seen the X-rays,
intensity.
For sure.
He's, certified. And he was bringing it late in this game. And that's the kind, flexing on guys. That's the kind of stuff that you've got to have when you're playing a team like New York that does have a lot of talent and skill, but also they're very physical. They're a very tough team. And you got to show some of that toughness back. Kelly provided those intangible pieces. But tangibly, he was doing some interesting things as well. Look, it's not like incredibly unprecedented. I'm sure other guys have done it, but I think it's rare when a guy completely changes his game. But that's what Kelly's done. Like, he's fully transformed into a slasher. He's so different than what he was last season, but he still has a little bit of that tsunami left, and he saved it for the fourth quarter when it mattered most. The final thing on Kelly is that I'm just going to read what I wrote in my box score notes. Third quarter, 9:07 left. I wrote in all caps, Kelly, I'm begging you to throw a post entry just one time. He had Mark Williams wide open in the post, would not throw it to him, put up a contested jumper. It was a bad play, okay? Then later in that same quarter, 52 seconds left, Hornets are down one. They'd come all the way back. Kelly finally passes it into the post to Nick Richards. I knew he could do it. Richards got fouled, 2 free throws, and they're up one. So, Kelly, we know you can slash. We know you can shoot. Please, let's find out if you can pass.
Well, right, like we talked about this at the beginning. I don't know if I go with Kelly's completely changed the way he's played. He's just taking more shots, and those other shots that he's taking, they are all coming on either slashes, drives, or 2-point range, because he's still taking the same amount of 3-point jump shots he did. It's almost an exact identical number that he posted last year from 3-point range. Role. But the overall field goal attempts, the guy's taken 17 shots per game. Like, that's a lot. And I know a lot of that is
he's had 2 chances now of being that guy, and really, I don't think the Hornets had any idea of him getting one chance to be that kind of guy who's going to get 17 shot opportunities.
Well, and so, he's averaging 17 shots right now. That is 5 more than he had last year. And Kelly came in, hoisted him up last year. But a lot of that, too, is because LaMelo's been out. And so that's why I think even if Kelly and Terry they are both kind of hesitant during post-game press conferences to say that they changed their role or that they view a bigger responsibility offensively. You see them play like that, but both of them don't really acknowledge it. I don't know. I'm not sure why. Like, not a rhetorical question. It's not with any judgment. I'm just not sure why they do that, but they haven't. But so that's the thing with me, right? I don't know if he's fundamentally changed it. He's taking 5 extra shots per game. I think a lot of those 5, right, as the numbers might say here, a lot of them are on the slash, on him driving more, which I said this a million times last year. He's better when he's driving the basketball, and they've come a little bit more within the 2-point range. But even with the assist, right, like that same old Kelly, not throwing post-entry passes. This is what Kelly does. When he's scoring, it's the biggest variance player they have on this team. The first half of last season, when the Hornets were flirting with a 4 seed at the midway point, it's because Kelly was going bonkers. Like, that was the thing. If Kelly was going nuclear, the Hornets were going to win. If he had a franchise record for threes in a quarter, Hornets were going to win. He didn't have those records in the second half, and the Hornets lost a whole lot to the point where they were barely in the play-in. He's such a high variance player where if he's not hitting buckets at a rapid rate, then he's not going to be helping you. Yeah. But he did tonight. And those are the fun performances from Kelly. That's
real quick in the chat. John has a question on Kelly Oubre that we can answer and then head to the last segment. With the way Kelly Oubre has shown that he can be one of our top scorers, do you re-sign him? And how long? Is it 1, 2, 3, 15 mil, 20 mil? And does he start next season if you do re-sign him? A lot of questions there, but go ahead.
Well, I think if you're worried about developing the young basketball players, Doug, in that last point he just made about Kelly, was begging Kelly to make a post-entry pass to your first-round pick in Mark Williams. Yeah. If Kelly's not going to help Mark, how much does Kelly make a Scoot Henderson better, Wembanyama, Brandon Miller, whoever, especially if it's somebody like that, like a Brandon Miller coming in? Do you want to free up more of the wing minutes by just letting Kelly Oubre go? Look, man, like I like Kelly coming off of the bench and being the microwave and letting him stay in the game if he's just going crazy, right? I like that. I know he wants to stay here, and so there could be some value there for sure. I think right now I would let him go, and that's why I would have looked to trade him. But remember, they couldn't trade him because of the injury. There's no way that a team was going to trade anything valuable at the deadline. So right now I'd let him go. But certainly it all is going to come under the caveat of how much money and how much time he's asking for.
And who you get in the draft. Do you really think you have a legitimate shot at not getting into the play-in, but do you have a legitimate shot of getting into the playoffs and competing in a first-round series? That would be a lot to ask. But if you feel like that and you think that, all right, well, Kelly wants to stay here, maybe he takes a little bit of a discount And, all of a sudden you can come up with an argument, especially if he's going to play a little bit more defense like he has this season, right? I mean, when he was the sort of combo sixth man last season with Cody Martin, that was always the deal. It was the yin and the yang. It was the offense and the defense, but they do have to work Cody Martin back into this rotation at some point. They have committed long-term now to Bryce McGowan's. So there are, and Bryce is not going to be ready to contribute big time next season, I don't think. But, they have contributed long-term to some other guys that are right there in that zone, though they did trade away Jalen McDaniels. That would have been another, I think, stumbling block. But, so I think to answer John's question, I think you might re-sign him, but I'm still leaning towards they're not going to. But we'll see.
Yeah, and even with the defense, I know the deflections are up. I know the steals. Cleaning the glass defensive numbers are still very down on him. And so,
no doubt. He's picked it up. He has, because it wasn't, when he talked about his defense early in the season, it wasn't like, I'm going to become an elite defender. What was his word? It was pest. I want to be a pest on defense. He is that. I don't think he really was that consistently last season.
Yeah, and so, and you're right. Like if the deflections are up, there are changes in his game to where it's okay. Like maybe there can be a change, even if they're not huge. They're substantial enough to notice them on the floor, and so we'll see if he stays. All right, let's talk about Mark Williams and a couple of other things coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
Yeah, one of the worst stat lines posted, especially with the amount of time that Mark Williams played in this game. So we'll dissect that a little bit more. And also, Doug told me he has like a 4-pack of craft brew style mock drafts that he wants to bring. So we'll get to that in just a moment and answer some of your comments and questions on the YouTube live chat. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It's past the midway point of the season. We're post All-Star break. It's here. And now is the perfect time to download FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet does not win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe. It's secure. It's super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scores and threes drained. So plus FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same game parlay. Don't miss the chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. One more live segment to go. Locked On Hornets.
This is Locked On Hornets.
I'm a fantastic Googler. I'm bad at logging in. If they were to do sort of a scouting report of me and my ability to use the internet.
Todd.
Yeah.
Excellent Googler. Not a very good guy that's logging in. Very good at interrupting the host anytime he's trying to go on a rant.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
I don't know what I'm doing there.
He's making a surprise appearance. Oh, and he's gone. All right. He didn't want to hear anything that we had to say. Sorry about that, Nada. Oh, Rich Pataglia, he wrote in on Twitter. I know Doug is always excited to beat the Knicks. Yes, I know Doug is excited about that as well. So, yeah, that's exactly what he said even before we started recording. And also,
anytime you can get one on the Knicks, you got to take that opportunity, especially when they're on a 9-game winning streak. They're feeling themselves. Everybody in the building believes they're going to actually win a playoff series when everyone else outside of the building understands the Knicks have zero chance of winning a playoff series. Get out of here. I saw a stat from Jason Huber, who I think works for Fox, right? Who's Huber work for?
Not anymore. Shouts to Jason, who listens to the pod, but not anymore. He's out of the media game because he's a smart man. So,
he's dropping. They're not fun stats. They're not. Maybe they're neat stats. But he was on Twitter. He said, Sacramento, they're almost guaranteed to make the playoffs. That's going to leave Charlotte with the longest playoff drought. And the Hornets, the Bobcats in 10 years went to the playoffs twice. The Hornets have only gone once in 9 years. So it's just, there's a lot to be sad about. And we could always lean on, well, at least we're not New York. Well, at least we're not Sacramento. Well, throw all that out the window now. So it's good to get one on the Knicks.
Yeah, I've made that same point 100%. And even with the Knicks, I will say this, though, kind of a pseudo national game. The reason I say that is because it's in a big market, because it's in Madison Square Garden.
Telling me.
There were a lot of national NBA pundits tweeting about this game because they were covering the Knicks, going for 10 straight wins in Madison Square Garden.
Hang a banner if they get 10 straight. Hang a banner.
Telling you, no doubt about it. But it benefits the Hornets. I was watching PTI earlier today with Tony Kornheiser and Pablo Torre. They were playing fill in the blank, and the phrase was something to the tune of the Knicks should feel blank about getting their 10th win in a row. And Tony said inevitable. He said it should feel inevitable that they're going to get this 10th win in a row because they're playing the Charlotte Hornets. And you know, Tony Kornheiser being a fool up there, who I love. I love the foolery. But with Tony Kornheiser saying, yeah, Michael Jordan's in the Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes. He's getting his speech ready for the number 1 overall draft when they finally get that lucky ping pong ball. So it felt inevitable, but the Hornets win. NBA on ESPN account on Twitter, they tweet out Kelly Oubre doing the flex and the first down sign. So anyways, national attention for the Charlotte Hornets. Stephen A. Smith's going to be talking about it tomorrow on First Take. So, hey, man, we get our moment in the sun this year with that.
Yeah, and you lost to the Magic. So, you know, I think the Hornets are really secure in the 4th spot. And the odds really aren't that much worse at the 4th spot than they are in those bottom 3 spots. So, you know, look, it's not bad to win a game like this. It keeps the morale up as they move up because there are still goals. There are still improvements that players need to make and learn, you know, again, Clifford's got a job here to do, which is get these guys to learn how to win and win consistently when they actually have, you know, when they don't have the worst injury luck in the world. Each game is an opportunity to do that, so they got to get the win. Also, just want to let you know, mangosteen, on the Wikipedia page for mangosteen, it says not to be confused with mango. It's nothing like a mango, you idiot. It's more like a coconut, the mangosteen.
No, I totally believe you believe that, and that mangosteen is a fruit. So I'm sure you believe that. Let's talk about Mark and what he did tonight. Mark Williams, 28 minutes. It was the least amount of minutes played in the starting lineup, but still the 5th most amount. 3 of 4 from the field. Not many field goal attempts. Usually a good free throw shooter. 1 of 4 from the free throw line. 7 points, 1 block, 1 steal. But here's the real bad stat. 3 rebounds at over 7 feet in 28 minutes of play. Mitchell Robinson getting a lot of offensive rebounds. I don't know how many he ended up with. I've got it right here. I can take a look in just a moment. So 3. So maybe not a lot. It just felt like a lot because there were offensive rebounds against Mark Williams, and it felt like he was getting, you know, he had 8 total, and Mark just wasn't grabbing any. He didn't have any at halftime, if I'm not mistaken. Put up a good old goose egg up there before he even got to the second half. What did you make of Mark's game?
Yeah, tough one for him. I think so many of these games are going to be matchup based, and I didn't think this was a great matchup for him. The Knicks are physical inside. Mitchell Robinson is a beast, and he also had to, you know, shade Julius Randle on some of these drives. And the Knicks were just really good at getting in behind him. I thought he's probably a little bit too aggressive with some of the drives by Quickly and Grimes and others. And you just had a lot happening behind him, which is never good because, you know, Mark Williams is somebody that you want really close to the rim, being available to block shots, help side or one-on-one. And he wasn't really that in this game. And then, yes, he was getting beat on rebounds. It's just going to happen. Look, I think part of this is something that he's going to have to deal with in the offseason in the weight room, just getting stronger, getting more attuned to the NBA game and NBA defense that Cliff wants him to play. But I also think some of this is in his head a little bit. I mean, I think there's a little bit of an edge that's not quite there, a little bit of toughness that's not quite there. I don't think it doesn't exist. I just think it, I think there's an adjustment period between what it takes to succeed in college and what it takes to succeed in the NBA. And I think he's going to find that because he obviously has the want to. He obviously, we can see it in the way he dunks the basketball. I mean, when he gets opportunities offensively, he looks like, all right, he's willing to throw his weight around. But, I think we're yet to see that on the boards. And I think that's what kept him really, honestly, from playing sooner. And you just look at Clifford's comments to back that up. I mean, Clifford was very hard on him in the offseason about his toughness, about his physicality, and that's what this team needs. Neon Charge on the chat right now asking, what is this team's biggest weakness? And I would say undoubtedly it is physicality. This team is all skill and all finesse, and they don't, they don't hit people. They don't have enough beefy muscle, and they don't have enough, I think, heart muscle sometimes to really compete in a first round series. And they're going to have to find that with the players that they have, and hopefully maybe with one of the players that they end up drafting.
Well, and I think it's just the consistent physicality from Mark, right? Because, I mean, we've seen games. I mean, man, against Miami, like Heat culture will tell you that's as physical a team as you can possibly ask for. They got Bam Adebayo, who's not as tall as Mark, but is as physical by far.
Bam
that's how he makes a living.
Bam don't want to play inside. He don't want none. Bam doesn't want it.
You're crazy. And then you're looking at like a Phoenix Suns team. You get double-digit rebounds. Detroit even, right? Like you had double-digit rebounds there, even if you gave up points to
because he can use his length. I mean, there's no doubt he can use his length to get rebounds that other guys can't. And when he can and he can jump, like, I mean, he can get the balls that other guys can't, and that's going to lead to some double-digit rebound nights. And then you're going to have others like this where he gets moved around a lot.
You know what I think really hurt him though? I think it was more so Mitchell Robinson's freaky ability to get out of the floor so fast, because he's so good at that. That's why he's been always such a great shot blocker. That's why we've always coveted him here in Hornets land when we were looking for our center the past 5 years and said, hey, what about Mitchell Robinson as a trade target? It's because the guy can jump 5 times in a row in the blink of an eye. And I think you saw that on some of those offensive rebounds, the tap outs, the keeping the ball alive. And he has the athleticism and the height to compete with Mark in some of those. And I think that's how he was keeping some of those basketballs alive. So, 3 rebounds, got to go up, got to box Mitchell Robinson out and drive him. You can't just find him, locate him, and then try to become a statue.
Got to get that
out of the
booty
paint.
in him.
Yeah, and it's hard. Like, it's hard to get leverage. As a taller player, that's one of the things that is the worst to deal with, man.
Yeah, I know. You're speaking from experience, right?
Yeah, yes. As my 6'6" self, talking about trying to box out other people, I will pick up basketball, even with me being 6'6" and having 6 foot linebackers come in. Those are the guys I hate boxing out more. Give me a 7-footer every day of the week before you give me a 6 foot like football player that's coming in to play some basketball and just crash the boards.
Charlotte pickup goes hard. I don't know from experience. I didn't play. Baby. My knees are a disaster. If I played pickup basketball, I'd be in the hospital. But all the accounts that I get from people who do play regularly in Charlotte is that Charlotte pickup goes hard.
100%, man. Hassan Whiteside, making sure that he could still keep basketball alive for him at the Dowd YMCA. Did you want to go some mock drafts, or did you want to do the YouTube comments? What order?
Yeah, I want to hit people with some mock drafts because we are going to start our draft coverage really in earnest this week. I've got a draft like central that's going to go up on Every Hornets Boxscore that's really going to have all my draft thoughts as I prepare to give out roses and scour the web for all of the mock drafts. So I'm going to do that. I just do want to quickly tie in with Mark Williams the struggles that we've been seeing from Bryce McGowan's. I'm not really like super worried about either of these guys. I think it's pretty clear, that the rookie wall has really hit them pretty severely. And Bryce in particular, he did have a nice little attack and got an up and under play. But there's just people are like, why are the Hornets not playing well right now? I mean, obviously it's LaMelo, but it's also the fact that you're playing like Thor, Mark, and Bryce all at the same time, and none of those guys can hit threes. I mean, Bryce has the ability to hit threes, but nobody's taking him seriously as a threat to hit threes. So that's going to affect the way teams play defense against you. I'm not really worried about any of these guys, but and obviously the Hornets aren't either. They've invested long term in Bryce McGowan's. They understand what the potential that's there, but they're going to continue to struggle, I think, until they get another offseason under their belt.
Yeah,
all right.
Just a quick thing on Bryce. Yeah, WFNZ.com. You can go check out a one-on-one with Bryce that I had. He's awesome. Like, that guy cares a lot. And when you interview rookies, sometimes rookies, it's just such a shock. They're not great at interviews, but it's fine, right?
Malik Monk was like the worst.
Dude, at least Malik had personality. I'll tell you the worst one. What's crazy is the big jump. Devontae Graham and Dwayne Bacon. Whew.
Yeah.
The first interviews I had with them, and this speaks to nothing of their intelligence. This speaks to nothing of how they're able to handle media as their careers go on. It just goes to show the younger guys coming into the NBA, where all of a sudden you have a whole bunch of microphones in your face and it's a professional business. It's a shock. I'm just telling you, Bryce McGowan's so thoughtful in his response. Dude is awesome to talk to, cares a ton, excited about his contract. And I asked him about the grind. It was kind of before we're seeing the rookie wall. And he said, yeah, man, like it's a lot. There's a lot of games in the regular season. It's gone by fast. But anyways, just Bryce McGowan's, it's hard not to like that guy, man. He works so hard, and he's going to be a Hornet favorite as long as he continues on the right path. All right, Doug, let's finally go to mock drafts.
Rapid fire mock drafts here. I'm going to give you a 4-pack from February 27th, yahoo.com. They've got the Hornets taking Amen Thompson in the first round, also acquiring Leonard Miller in the late first round. March 1st, Bleacher Report has got the Hornets taking Brandon Miller and Kyle Filipowski from Duke.
Wow.
And then March 6th, USA Today, they've also got the Hornets taking Brandon Miller 4th. All of these that I'm going to say, the Hornets taking Brandon Miller, they had Amen Thompson going 3rd. Jet Howard is going to be the pick late in the first round. And then finally, Tankathon has the Hornets right now taking Brandon Miller 4th overall and Marcus Sasser in the late first round. So there's your 4-pack juicy mock drafts coming at you.
I don't quite know how to comment on the Brandon Miller stuff right now, so maybe I just leave some of those drafts.
It's especially when you're live. It's like, hey,
yep.
don't,
And let's go to the YouTube comments. I'll tell you, the second picks you mentioned are interesting, though. Like your Brandon Miller and Kyle Filipowski, second team All ACC, really, really impressive this season. And even a Jet Howard kind of showed you what he was about at the beginning of the season. A lot of people really fell in love here when Michigan played North Carolina. So some interesting second picks you mentioned there.
Yeah,
so.
And again, we're going to dig way deep into this because I'm starting my draft. Usually I wait until like halfway through the tournament to start my draft.
Not this season.
Not this season, baby. This is too important. It's too crucial for the Hornets. I've started it early. And I'm already doing a lot of research on Brandon Miller. Controversy aside for a second,
the dude's awesome. I mean, what do you want me to say?
He's awesome, but also I'm noticing though that he is polarizing as a player. Like I feel like with Brandon Miller, there are people that are like he should be number 2. And then there are people like, he should be number 7. Like, it's weird. Like, there's no one being like, yeah, Brandon Miller's slotted pretty much where we think he's slotted and he's going to be pretty good and has the potential to be really great. It's either like you think Brandon Miller is the second coming of Paul George or you think he's trash. It's weird.
Well, and just to address the controversy, just to give a blanket statement on it so we don't completely avoid that conversation.
We won't. We're going to, that's the thing. It's like we've got a long time here to kind of sort out all of this stuff.
Regardless, Alabama, what are you doing playing him? Sit him before just to figure it out. Just figure it out. Just don't have him play in these games and figure out what you need to do and then make the decision afterwards. But don't have him play this entire time. All right, that's all I have to say. Let's move on. Do you want to go to some YouTube comments?
Yeah, let's close it out. We've got, let's see, some first-timers, I think. James
awesome.
says live, cool. Trey says, I love when I get to catch these live. There were a couple of, I feel like there were a couple of big-time or first-timers. Blake said big dub hat. It would be. We're at the end of the show.
It would be. Yeah, good point.
It should be. Just imagine it. Just imagine it's on my head. Use your, you close your eyes. Imagine me when you do it.
Take that comment out of context right there. 100%. Close your eyes and think of me when you do it. There you go.
Blake said, do you think we'll see Mark launch a 3 anytime this season?
Is Steve Clifford just going to say it enough times to where final game of the year, Mark just lets it rip?
Yeah, if I'm betting on it on FanDuel, I probably bet on it to happen because we've got a lot of meaningless basketball left to play.
We can at least get a heave. If the over-under is set at a half, we can at least get one heave before the season is done. So
yeah, because my memory seems to hold Cody Zeller throwing up like weird threes at the end of seasons that didn't matter. So like I'm sure
Oh, he would come out. Was it his second to last season where he actually was shooting okay on 5 attempts, which was more than he ever had. But yeah, they tried to make Cody Zeller threes a thing for a while. So
Trey has an interesting question here. What are the chances they pair that late first with Terry, Hayward, Oubre, and jump into the late lotto? I'm going to go with almost 0% because last season they didn't want to pay 2 lottery picks. I don't think they're going to want to do it this season either. And I think that it's more likely that they would pair that late first rounder and maybe want to get rid of one of those contracts, or jump and gain some additional assets in the second round or maybe a future first.
Well, one of the interesting things about the trade market that I forget who I heard talking about it, but one of the points they made was you see teams holding on to their first round draft picks this year so tightly, right? With all the 5 second round pick deals that we saw, because this draft is so coveted. And this is really high end real estate you're talking about, the 2023 first round NBA draft. And so it's honestly, I still am not in that neighborhood where I'm saying, okay, Mitch, I get what you did. I'm not there, but you understand that this draft, it is deeper. It is more important than last year's first round. It's the reasoning of not wanting to pay 2 lottery picks that really had us in the dark sulking after their draft last year. But it is good. At least you have 2. Having 2 first round picks, even if it's going to be late, having 2 first round picks will be nice.
I think I just want Mitch, if he is going to make the pick at like 28 or 29 for the Nuggets, if he's going to make that pick, I want him to really do some I want him to close his eyes, not think about me, but I want him to think about that pick, not as if it's a first-round pick, but I want him to think about that pick as if it's a second-round pick because he nails 100%. Those. So just imagine that 28 or 29 is actually like 34 or 35, and I think we'll be okay.
Did you think he chokes when well, it's not like he's had an awful history of first rounders. It was just the one. It was Book Knight, Kai Jones, at least right now. That's what it is. Any more comments before we finish up, or is it about that time?
I think it's about that time because we're gonna dig into this draft coverage. I can't wait. I'm super excited about this draft. A lot of interesting prospects. There's a guy named Grady Dick, which is just like that's a fantastic name. I can't wait to figure out what that's all about. I haven't really watched any college basketball, so I'm just watching highlight films and reading The Ringer, and I'm excited. I'm pumped up. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to give 900 mock drafts from sportskeeda.com.
Can you imagine if his name was Grade A? Because that would be an unbelievable.
I'm sure somebody at some point in his basketball career in a locker room or something has called him that for sure.
100%. All right, that'll do it for Locked On Hornets, a live edition. Hive live edition? Man, it's been a long time since I've said that. Thanks for making us your first listen today. And even if you made us your last listen tonight, watching us live, make us your first listen again tomorrow. There's no reason you can't choose this once more. And we're also going to be dropping another podcast tomorrow early. So lots of pods, throwing them at your face, hot pods for your face. That's what we're here. That's what we're about on Locked On Hornets. Now, make sure you also make your second listen game to game. They cover every contest from across the league with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game to Game on Locked On NBA, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. Have a great night. We'll be back with you tomorrow.
Peace.